Well, here we go. What's UCLA women's basketball going to do? All right. With Talia Goodman confirming Londynn Jones' entry into the portal from on three, and also the fact that Janiah Barker has a do not contact tag in the transfer portal, UCLA, they're without some of their significant pieces, right? This is what UCLA will be missing next year. Let's go over it one more time. A team that's preseason number one, that's bringing in one of the best high school recruits in the country in Sienna Betts. Lena Bilic is another international recruit who hopefully could do as good, if not better, than Elena Arnesalo as an incoming true freshman, UCLA's last international recruit. That actually worked out pretty well in my mind. The Bruins are returning their three top scorers, Lauren Betts, who averaged 20 and 9, Kiki Rice, who averaged almost 13 points, 3 rebounds per game, and was the team's leader in assists by a wide margin. Then Gabriela Jaquez, just a shade under 10 points per game and 5 rebounds per game. But Londynn Jones is that fourth leading scorer, that shooter who can knock down the three, the team's leader in three-point makes, and then you lose in Janiah Barker, the Big Ten Sixth Player of the Year, an SEC All-First Teamer, and she goes to the portal. All right, that's what UCLA is losing out on. They still are their top three. Charlize Ledger-Walker is important as well. Gianna Neepkins, an important player, coming for an official visit pretty soon from Talia Goodman. I talked about that in the last Locked On UCLA episode, who could fit what UCLA needs. But the Bruins aren't the only ones losing in the portal. They're not the only ones losing. South Carolina, MiLaysia Fulwiley, one of their key players who doesn't start, actually. Maybe a sixth player, maybe one of those players, like if you looked at Mick Cronin, you're like, why isn't Fulwiley starting? Dawn Staley had a local product on her team dominating, and according to the Greenville News, Lulu Kesson, she reported with breaking news right before I started recording that Fulwiley is heading to the transfer portal after 2 years at South Carolina. That's a player who in her 2 seasons played in almost 70-plus games, won a national championship, averaged 11 points per game in both of those seasons, and is dynamic on the court. If you see some of her highlight tape, fantastic. Played almost 80 games, 12 points per game, couple decent rebounding numbers, 3 rebounds per game, and has the flashy potential with the ability to affect defensively, right? Whether it's shots blocked or in her case, 60 steals in the season. Just over a steal, maybe a steal and a half on the season per game for Fulwiley in her first 2 years. Bigger guard, 5'10", and a local product from Columbia, South Carolina, which is interesting that after 2 seasons, a team that just made it to the national championship, a team that won it unbeaten in her freshman campaign, that she's leaving in the transfer portal. Makes one wonder, should UCLA go after a player like that? I wonder what her fit would be. It's probably similar to that of Janiah Barker, although I would believe her ball handling skills are a little more crisp than Barker's were coming to UCLA. Turnover numbers aren't something that you would like if you're a UCLA fan, considering the Bruins couldn't take care of the basketball, but the athleticism, the flashiness, the ability to have a different type of scorer, different type of ball handler, and a taller guard could be important for UCLA. Now, obviously, Barker being 6'3" versus Fulwiley being 5'10", that's one thing. But this is a player you look at, and also it kind of gives you a sense of relief, right? Felt like South Carolina, who just got the leading scorer in the country in the transfer portal, in Janiah Latson, I should say, from Florida State, getting her in, seeing the Gamecocks lose somebody to the portal, you're like, okay, UCLA's not the only team losing players, and maybe this was something that was in the works, or it's just as much of a shock to Dawn Staley like it is to myself, and maybe you listening or watching at home. It's like, oh, that's a key player that is ready to make a big jump into her junior season, while UCLA is losing some talent. South Carolina is losing talent too. UConn, Paige Beckers is quote-unquote graduating / going to the NBA draft, not using that extra year of eligibility she could have. So each team is either missing or losing a player of significance, right? Notre Dame lost Olivia Miles. UCLA losing the Big Ten Sixth Player of the Year and one of their best three-point shooters in program history in Londynn Jones. Fulwiley leaving South Carolina. Beckers is going to the WNBA draft. Juju is out for a significant period of time for USC, while they've also lost some players to graduation and to the transfer portal. Like, okay, NC State won't be as good. TCU improved, but they lost two players like Van Lith and Sedona Prince. So every team is losing, just like they all do, to the portal, graduation, some going pro. And now it seemed like South Carolina, the one team that didn't seem like it had been affected by something as big and dramatic as a move like this could have been, Wiley hits the portal. I just hope UCLA, I'm not sure if this is necessarily a good fit for these two, for the player and for UCLA, considering Janiah Barker came in after a big role, had a reduced role, and she's already in the portal. Fulwiley would probably get stuck in a logjam between, Ledger Walker coming off of injury. You bring in Kiki Rice and Lauren Betts and Jaquez, all of which could be in the starting five. Dugalich, her next moves are unknown at this point for UCLA, while she has the next year of eligibility. Can the Bruins find a way to bring someone of this talent, of this caliber in? Yes, UCLA was extremely deep and had a stacked roster with Ledger Walker expected to play this last season until it was decided in December to January that she was not going to play and just use the medical redshirt. So they could stack talent like Fulwiley, which would help them more for the depth this season and potentially in a starting role once Kiki Rice is gone. Fulwiley would be one of those players where you ask her, hey, can you take a lesser role this year or a similar role like you played at South Carolina, coming off the bench for a top team in the country, and then when Kiki's gone, you have the basketball. Like, it's you. Because Ledger Walker will be gone. Somebody's got to feed the ball to Sienna Betts. Lauren Betts would be gone. Gabriella Jaquez was gone. Some of those key recruits for the class of 22 gone with Jones in the portal and with Janiah Barker in the portal. UCLA would need that somewhat senior leader that Fulwiley could be in that season. Now, this is all looking way too far ahead. That would be the case in the pitch Cori Close could make to somebody like Fulwiley. But the UCLA Bruins do have Lena Village, who is a bigger guard, 6'3" guard. You bring in Neepkins. You mix in some youth with some senior presence on this team, and that is what could put UCLA over the top to get them to their first national championship in the NCAA era of women's college basketball. But it is huge news that South Carolina is losing a significant piece to the transfer portal. The Bruins aren't the only ones. And just about every team has taken a hit with somebody leaving to the portal or going pro or graduation, which is how it should be. It'll be fun to see how Cori Close responds, if the Bruins have another, or if they're like, we're actually set, it's addition by subtraction. Because they already have the commitments to those two players. They lost their entire freshman class of 2024. That's not often you say, oh, we just lost all four commits from a season ago, and we're okay. That just doesn't happen. And here UCLA is the number one team in the country, pretty much all in for next year to win a national championship, maybe at the expense of their future, unless Close can expect the portal to stay as active as it's been these last few off seasons, in addition to finding some key recruits nationally and internationally, like she's been repeatedly, again and again and again. So I hope that continues. But Fulwiley is an interesting one. Not sure if that's a big fit at UCLA, but the pitch would be, come here with the idea of staying for 2 seasons, which is hard because players' minds and emotions change from year to year. Just like you could say Janiah Barker's did. She wanted to come to UCLA to win and take a lesser role, and eventually at the end leaves after a season at UCLA. Or if you have those players who stay for 3 years, Londynn Jones is in the portal when she was heading into her senior year. That just tells you how locked in UCLA is into this upcoming season to winning a national championship. Cori Close is pulling all the stops to make it happen, and that is immediately after they are embarrassed on national television by the current national champions, UConn. They're coming full force next season. I just wonder who will be on their roster when they go on the full-fledged redemption tour to make it happen. Until then, like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. This has been the Locked On UCLA podcast. Tell me your thoughts. Like, comment, subscribe. And hey, getting close to a Friday night showcase for UCLA football. Big weekends for the UCLA baseball team in first place in Big Ten. You have the UCLA softball team who has some big-time matchups this weekend. They are tied for first heading into their weekend in the Big Ten. Good things for spring sports, big things for winter sports in the portal and the season wrapping up into the slow end of this academic calendar year, that's why you come to Locked On UCLA and enjoy. Okay, hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA. Fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.